Welcome to this video on the Bitmex calculator that is built into the TUCP trading software. To access the calculator, there are two ways to actually do this. The first is if you come up to the top of the chart, you can see that we have the calculator menu option here. So if I left click on this, this will bring up the calculator. I'm just going to close this. And you'll also notice that we have a new trade set up here as well. So if I right click on this, I can then left click on Bitmex trade calculator, except this time you will see that this has automatically been filled in with the trade figures for the trade markup. So this makes life a lot easier. I haven't got to actually input these figures. But let's start from the top and see how we actually set this up. If you come up to the top, we've got the inputs, as I call them. We've got the currency. I prefer USD to GBP, but the choice is yours. And before I move off this, just to make the point here, if you are going to have GBP as your trading results, then make sure that each day, because prices change on a daily basis, that you update the dollar pound rate here before you actually use the calculator, otherwise it will be inaccurate. Let me show you how to do this. The quickest way to get the current price for the GBP USD, if you don't have access to any forex prices, is to open the web browser, go to Google, and then just type in GBP, and you'll see that it comes up with this in the top of the search straight away, and there you can see it's 138. So take that figure, go back to the software and just type in 138. And like I say, you've just only got to do this once per day unless there's something dramatic happening in the pound. And don't forget, this is all ballpark figures just to make the conversion from Bitcoin prices to something that you're more familiar with. The next things we want to do is to make sure that our wallet balance, our Bitcoin balance, is actually correct. And the way to do this is to go to your Bitmex trading platform, come up to the top here, it's got the balance figures here, or you can go across to accounts and you can click on there. Either or will bring up the wallet balance, and you can see we can either take it from here, which is the most obvious place, and also you'll see it here as well from the last few trades that were actually made as well. So we've got 1635 there. It's the easiest way to remember that one. So 1635, I'll just type those figures in, and that gives us a more accurate picture. Just going back to the top here, you can choose whether you want euro as well, and you will need to change the price there as well, just to make sure that it's in the more or less in the right sort of area price wise. Personally, I prefer USD. It just makes more sense to me as Bitcoin is traded against the US dollar or US dollar Bitcoin. So I prefer to see the figures represented in dollars there. So we'll have a look at these other ones after we've added a few more figures, and we'll come back to these. So once you've done this, and say this is only a once a day event, or after you've traded and you come back, so you haven't got to keep doing this all the time. But again, it's a lot easier than using the Bitmex calculator. So over here we've got the potential trade that's already marked up. We've got some figures in here. We've got to decide how many contracts we want to trade. And again, this is where the calculator is really useful. We've only got around 10% of Bitcoin in the account. So if I put in the same amount as the entry price, which is 9,448, I'm alerted immediately that I have insufficient funds in my account to do this trade, because I don't have, as we can see from the top here, I've only got $1,500 worth of Bitcoin in my account, and I'm trying to trade the full Bitcoin amount. It's not a problem, as you'll see in other videos. So if I say that I wanted to trade 10 times or 7 times leverage, there would actually allow me to do this. I don't need to go any further than that. So I could do the trade on a full Bitcoin here by using 7 times the leverage there. Again, this is just an example just to show you how the calculator works. And of course, what you've got to note here as well is that the potential risk on this trade at the moment, 18% of available funds, which would be financial suicide. We don't want to do that. And that's because I've opted to trade a full Bitcoin now. But again, I'm just showing you how by playing around with these figures, you get a real world idea in something that you are familiar with. And again, when you've done a few trades, you'll know exactly where you are based on the amount you have in your wallet. It just becomes second nature. It is a really, really good tool, and one that I knew I would have to have in the software if I was to trade the Bitcoin futures successfully, because I wouldn't have to spend most of my time trying to work out the Bitcoin values. We've got a situation here where we've got we can do the trade, but we're exposed to a lot. And again, we wouldn't see this if we were just using the Bitcoin calculator in the Bitmex platform. So what we could do now, we can play around with these figures. We could halve it, for example, and straight away we're down to 8% with 134 risk. Still too heavy, so we said, okay, well, let's go down to 2,000. And now we're down to something that's a lot more acceptable, 3.9 with a $60 potential loss there. So let's just work our way down to the figures. Now, in the leverage videos, which you can find in the Bitmex tutorials, where I talk about the liquidation price, and this is the major factor risk inside of trading the Bitmex futures, is the liquidation price. And as I said in the first video, we would actually revisit the calculator, and we're just going to bring this back up, because the liquidation price we can't actually calculate at this point because it requires accessing each individual's wallet amount in order to do it. So you have to come into the software to actually get the liquidation price. Now, you don't need the liquidation price because you'd have to be an absolute fool to let the market come down to the liquidation price, again, as I've shown in numerous videos. However, if you wanted to know, and it's worth doing this as a newbie, just so you can actually see where the danger is in trading Bitmex futures, the risk is in the liquidation price. And of course, that is also part of the leverage aspect. So let's just go back and throw a figure in here. We've got the quantity. We're going to go with 2,000, and the entry price is 9,448. And we've got a leverage of 10 and a liquidation price there of 8,636. So I'm just going to copy that, go back to the software, and I'm going to just paste that in here. So now you can see the stop that we're actually going to use is only 3% of our account, but if we were to use the liquidation stop, the one that is forced by the Bitmex platform when you trade on it, and if you were to let the market take you down to this level, you would end up losing 12% of your account, or $186, and you don't want that to happen. It is as simple as that. Let me just double check these figures. 8636 is correct, and let me just make sure 2009,448. So that is the correct figure, but it gives you an indication here of why you should never let the Bitmex platform take you out of a trade by using the liquidation figure. And as I said earlier, really you won't need to use this, but it is very interesting to see how it impacts your account. This is the downside in any trading, is if you don't have your own protective stopping like we do here. And this one I can soon start sliding up, as I showed you in the order section. You can move the stop once you've placed it onto the chart. You can move it up and down and really reduce it, but you would be a fool to ever trade on the Bitmex platform without having your own stop loss in, which is going to be far closer to the entry price and should never ever get to the liquidation price that we see over here. So we've taken care of all of that, and then at the bottom we've got a summary of the trade. And this is where the magic happens, really, because instead of trying to see what the figures are in Bitcoin and try and translate it back yourself, the software takes care of it for you, and you can see exactly where you are. And the other great thing is, if I just move the chart over a bit, let me just rearrange the chart, we can see that we've got a recent high over here. And if I just go to this high, it's also the over here, it's also a pivot high. I can say, well, if the market does actually fill this order and then goes through these areas and drives up to this figure, how much will I actually make on the trade? So I can go to the profit target and I can type in 9780, and I can see now that we've got a situation down here where it's a 1-to-1 ratio, but I will have moved the stop up by this point, and if I've moved it to break even, I can then also show this in the software as well by changing the figure to the entry price. So I can go to 448, and you will see now that the risk in the bottom part here is 0, with a potential of $67 profit on the table there if the market trades up to the 9780 level. So then further down at the bottom, we've got the potential return on the trades. We've got the return on the account, which is obviously to the balance in the account at the top there. And then we've got the profit and loss, which comes from the Bitmex calculator. There's a 3% return on the equity employed. That's the amount of margin. And because we're using 7 times leverage, we've got a return of 23.84, also from the cost of the trade. And again, just to recap on this is not as a return on equity of the balance of the account, but of the margin cost. And again, a lot of misinformation on the internet with regards to this, but take it from me, after weeks of studying this and going into depth, it is on the amount of money borrowed on the trade. So you can see that quite clearly. It's a bit deceptive because it says return on equity, which makes you automatically think that it's the wallet amount, and it's not. It's actually on the amount used, as in 0.03 there, or $283 of your own money to actually do the trade as a deposit. Okay, so that's the calculator going through step by step. For example, let's just see if we can find, let's just say we were going to go short. So the first thing I'm going to do is to click short there. And we can see that we've got some resistance here at this daily pivot, and it's closed below it as well. You can see that it's closed below and think, well, okay, let's go short. So I can mark up a trade without having to wait for the software. And then if I right click here, I can click onto the Bitmex risk management, and all of a sudden everything's changed. I've still got 2,000 contracts, but now you'll see that the entry price has changed, the initial stop has changed, and also the profit target there. The liquidation price won't be relevant, and I'm not going to fill that one, and I've shown you how to do that. And now I could actually again calculate on manually if I wanted to. I can say, well, okay, if the market trades down to this area, how much will I have made? And the only way to do that, let me just cancel that so I can see from the top there. So looking at the data window at the top there, 8942, so I can put in 8942, and straight away I can see what the potential gain is going to be down at the bottom. Also the calculation here still on 7 times the leverage. I wouldn't need this because I can bring this back because of the number of contracts that I'm trading. I could probably trade this on a not on a 1-to-1. I can go to 2 times leverage there, and again at the bottom you'll see the potential returns there. And also the important one actually is the return on the trade for my account. So that's how you use the calculator, and then if you want to reset it, just left click here and that will bring it all the way back to how it was when we started. apart from it doesn't change the dollar pound rate or the amount in your wallet. You have to do those yourself. Again, I prefer USD, and if I wanted to bring this trade back in, I just click on there, everything comes back in, put in the 2,000 contracts back to 2 times, and there I can see, and then of course change the profit target again down to let me just remind myself what it was, 8947, and I can see exactly what I'm going to get. So it's a real time saver. It is also very useful for paper trading as well. So you can, for example, we've got a potential trade here. Just going to mark it up, and because we're trading in a 60-minute time frame, we get plenty of time to actually mark this trade up. So I can right click again, Bitmex trade calculator, everything's done for me, and all I need to do now is just to play around with the figures if I want to, and say, well, okay, we've got the first profit target is the scalp. I always call that the first profit target. This allows you to then consider moving the stop up to reduce your initial risk. And then over here we've got this 9791, so I would just change this to 9791, and immediately I can see what I've got here, and I can then also say, well, by this point I will have moved the stop. If the market's trading up at this level, then I'm going to be trailing the stop, so I'm not going to be exposed to $60 at this point. I'm going to have moved the stop up to break even, which is the entry price. Plus, if you wanted to just make it a bit easier, just to cover the fees, drop on a couple of dollars there as well, and again you can see there you're accounting for the fee as well as the profit. So that's how the calculator works. It's a time saver, it makes life easier, and again, it has that bonus that you can use it for paper trading as well. You can just take a screenshot of it or log the details into a spreadsheet or whatever you want to do. It just makes getting to grips with the whole of the concept of trading in Bitcoin that much easier. Right, that's it for this video tutorial. It's a bit of a long one, but an important one. Any questions, let us know. Other than that, as ever, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.